We're on the 2012 campaign trail, and on this edition of our Week in Review, we're looking at the good, the bad, and the just plain ugly coming from the candidates. The president is spending time abroad, but he's still pushing his domestic agenda with the jobs plan and calling out Congress with its dismal 9% approval rating. Meanwhile, Herman Cain is trying to regain traction after some political flubs. Rick Perry has challenged the House Minority Leader to a debate, and Newt Gingrich is under fire for his consulting fees from Freddie Mac. Here to break it down for us, on the right, Kereakos Zuras, former financial advisor to the George W. Bush administration. And on the left, for the Democratic View, Christy Setzer, who's worked on 3 presidential campaigns. She now runs New Heights Communications. Christy, let's start with you. Who had the worst week in politics?
You know, it's got to be a toss-up between Herman Cain and Newt Gingrich, but I'm going to give the nod to Herman Cain. He had this week what I think in any other presidential election would be a disqualifying week, starting with the disastrous video that he gave to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, in which he was asked how he differed in his views on Libya from the president and seemed to have no knowledge whatsoever of whether Libya was a country, what his policy was on it, what the president's policy was on it. And then he entered the week definitely doubling down on those views and saying that as a president, he wouldn't necessarily have to know anything about foreign policy. So I'm going to give the nod to Herman Cain.
Kereakos, you've got to be rolling your eyes thinking, you know, if you were his consultant, what would you do to help him out?
I would have, first of all, prepared him a little bit better, because they're not doing a good job with him over there. But when you look at Herman Cain, he's just a real guy. I mean, he's not there's nothing phony about him. He's very transparent. And of course, they're going to scrutinize him, and they're going to have him under the microscope looking at every little thing. Now look, the reason presidents have advisors is because there isn't a president ever that knows everything. That's why you have advisors. So he's being honest, and I think he's connected with people on that. Yeah, I mean, he could have been a little bit more prepared, but he's going to have advisors if he's picked, and it'll see his way through. But he's straight up for what he is, and that's why people love this guy.
I like to see that he's not so buttoned up and careful and weighing every word. When you're president, you have to, but he's not that right now. And so far, it's worked for him. If it weren't for some of the allegations about the sexual misconduct and everything. What about the delicious word? Because they're picking on him for that. But again, let Herman be Herman.
Right, correct.
But what was that about? How do you say delicious?
Yeah, he was at a restaurant eating some Cuban food, and he asked, how do you say delicious in Cuban? And, you know, people from Cuba speak Spanish, and that was kind of a gaffe for him. But you know what? I think if you asked a lot of people what's the language, they would say Cuban, because that's just what a lot of people think. So, but he's one of us. He's a regular guy, and you can connect with him, and people identify with him, and that's what they're looking for.
Christy, Newt Gingrich wants us to think he's a regular guy. Sure, he's lived in Washington, but he's been out in Virginia and McLean, and so he's still an outsider. That's why people like him. Well, bingo, the insiders have been paying him consulting fees. Now, over a period of time, a few $1 million may not be much, but his ties with Freddie Mac don't look good, do they?
They don't look good at all, and I will say that exactly that's what's most damaging about these allegations. It's not even that he did well for himself, that he made millions of dollars. It's that it reminds people that he's a product of Washington and has been for the last 30 years. Now, I can see how, in contrast to someone like Herman Cain, who does not seem to have a firm grasp of the issues, Newt Gingrich can be appealing in that way, because he's a very smart guy. He likes to play that smartest guy in the room card. The problem is that he's exactly everything that the Republican electorate right now has been railing against, which is too insider, too Washington, too many problems.
Kereakos, what do you think? I mean, there are plenty of Democrats who have gotten consulting fees too, but
look, we've got the whole thing about the inside trader thing, and there isn't anybody that's not tainted in that area. It's Republican, Democrat, everyone. It's everybody. So it's not looking good for Newt right now that they're bringing this up, but it was after he left, and he had a legitimate consulting company, and he's not hiding it. And
you've got to admit, though, the fact that he's selling himself on being an outsider, even though he's kind of still in the Beltway, he is an insider.
I agree. I agree. And the bottom line with Newt is that he's going to get elected, if he does, because of what he knows and his experience and his ability to do the job. And allegations are going to come and go. They're going to find things on a lot of people. I agree that it's not. I wouldn't have brought that up. I wouldn't be saying I'm not that, and then when I have a history. The same when he brought up the sexual allegations against Herman Cain in the debate, when he asked him, do you want to clear this up? And here's a guy who's got a record of his own. But they all do. So we really need to focus on the issues.
The president was in Australia this week, shoring up military ties with Australia, because we're looking at foreign policy toward the East and the Asia, and kind of we've been there, done that with Iraq and Afghanistan. What kind of problem does China pose?
Well, you know, they're trying to dominate some of the international waters over there, and they're getting a little aggressive. And I think that for us, this is a more of a symbolic play. There's really not a whole lot you can do. You know, you move some stuff over there, you let them know that you're watching them and all that. But, you know, the bigger problem is economically, where, you know, they control a lot of our debt. They've taken a lot of our jobs. They're doing a lot of our manufacturing. And if you really want to combat China, we really need to, you know, get things moving over here in our economy and get our people back to work and get our manufacturing going so they're not a threat. But right now, they basically own and control us, and they're beefing up their military now. They released a new stealth jet plane. They introduced a new aircraft carrier. And they're spending $160 billion a year. 12%, I think, of the income intake of China goes to military weapons now, and it's very dangerous. We're at a weak point, and now they're really pushing they're stepping on us now.
Christy, let's talk about money in the super committee. Are they ever going to reach their deadline, or are they going to just kick it down the road? After all, these across the board cuts are going to happen. Nobody wants to see that take place, but what do you think is going to happen?
I think most people in Washington right now think that either no deal will be cut or that there will be a very incremental deal. So if no deal is cut, then as you said, these automatic triggers are going to go into place that would cut $1.2 trillion. You know, I think from the Democratic perspective, at this point, no deal is a good deal because of what the Republicans have been offering, which is they've doubled down on their giveaways for tax giveaways for millionaires and big corporations. They're still looking to slash Social Security and Medicare. You know, again, at this point, Democrats, I think, would just like to see this whole thing go away.
Real quick, what do you think?
At this point, we're spending $1.5 trillion more than we take in. We need $5 trillion in cuts. It's not a Democrat, it's not a Republican issue. It's a matter of economics and simple math. We need to cut $5 trillion out, and we need to do it quickly, not 1.2 over a period of 10 years. It's not Republican, it's not Democrat. If we're running out of money, we're going to get downgraded again. We need to cut the spending. There's a lot of waste. There's a lot of entitlement needs to be reformed. Taxes, the whole tax code needs to be redone. There's good value on both sides. It's not slanted. They all need to get together and then do what needs to get done. But cuts need to be made, and I don't think they're going to make the deadline. I think it's going to be extended. I don't like the whole idea about this whole super committee. The president should have stepped up. Congress should have done a job right after that debt ceiling was thing. This is ridiculous. It's a formula for failure, and that's exactly what we're on track to do right now, is to fail.
Kereakos, Zuras, our guest on Capital Insight, along with Christy Setzer. Good to have your views on both sides of the aisle. Thank you.